What's going on, trainers? Another week, another episode of Pokemon Horizons, and I'm gonna hit you with something. This might sound a little silly, but the moment when Roy and Dot... Well, let me say this, okay? I think, when you're watching a show and you get 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, almost 70 episodes in, it's a time investment, but you also kind of give you kind of give a piece of yourself to the show or to the piece of media as well. And I think you get really, really invested. And with a show like Pokemon, it's more than just an anime, for me, as I'm sure a lot of you are out there alongside with me on the journey. But for me, Pokemon has been something that has really, I don't want to be hyperbolic and say changed my life, but it's been really impactful in my life. And Pokemon, the game and the show, has gotten me through, I don't want to say dark times, but it's gotten me through a lot of times, happy, sad, and in between. I remember, and I'm going down memory lane here, but I want to say this before I kind of say the next thing about this episode. Is, I remember the first game that me and my wife played together was Pokemon Diamond and Pearl for the DS. That's the first game that we purchased together back in like 2012, okay? And we got DS's, and this was right before the 3DS came out. And we got DS's, and she played Diamond, and I played Pearl, okay? So that was the first set of games that we got ever as like a couple. And that was like our first journey in playing video games. And then a couple of years later, we were finally able, I think in 2014, we were able to get a pair of 3DSs, okay? And we ended up picking up Pokemon X and Y. And while my wife was pregnant with our first kid, one of the things that she did a lot was completing the Pokedex, and I did shiny hunting, and we played Pokemon X and Y together. And that same thing has continued on through, to current. We played Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. We played, Sun and Moon. We played Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Let's Go. Sword and Shield, Arceus, most recently Scarlet and Violet, and we'll play the next one when the new Legends game comes out. And then obviously prior to, Pokemon was also a big part of our lives prior. She had played like one Pokemon game ever before, but she never owned one. So that was like the first experience. And then for me, it was one of those things too, I've been playing since Red and Blue. And the first game that I personally got for myself, or not for myself, but the first Pokemon game that I was able to own was Pokemon Yellow. And it's just been a part of my life ever since. So, and as you see, I got Magikarp here, Pokemon there, and it's like there's like literally I just like all around the house. I mean, I have effing like stickers here. Like it's just a huge, huge part of our lives and my life and my kids' life. And now what I want to say is episode 67 is I got emotional, and I'm not going to say I cried, but just emotion. I had big emotions when Liko and Roy were standing off there together. And when they were about to terastallize, right? Roy's Fuecoco evolved into Crocolore, and then they went to go terastallize. And it felt like at that moment was like 67 weeks, a year and a half, basically, a year and 5 months, a year and a half, of being invested in these characters all coming in one moment. And I think that they perfectly captured the emotion of that moment and how big a deal it was for both of them. And if it sounds silly, but thinking back to the moments where I was taking on an Elite Four, or when me and the wife were streaming on our gaming channel, you can find the gaming channel in the description. we were Legends Arceus was about to come out, and the next day, and the night before it was going to come out, or the day before it was going to come out, that night we were streaming Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and we had been nuzlocking that game, and we were streaming it, and because Arceus was just about to come out, we had been streaming the game for like 6 weeks, something like that, and we would stream a couple of times a week, and we were doing a nuzlocke. But it ended up being that we had like 4 to 6 hour streams like the last couple of days before Arceus dropped, because we were trying to nuzlocke and get to the Elite Four right beforehand. And I remember like that night, I had lost against one of the Elite Four members, and the wife had lost against one of the Elite Four members. And after, that was like, okay, that was the end of the streams. That was like, we lost the nuzlocke. But then that specific night after the stream, we stayed in bed till like, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, giving the Elite Four, another go. And we were able to roll credits that night. And then Arceus came out. And again, I could just tie in a lot of different emotions to the games. But those emotions I had that night, I was like, yes, I beat the Elite Four, whatever. Like it felt really good in that moment. And I know that for Liko and Roy in this episode, like it felt like they were really growing as humans, as characters, as Pokemon trainers. It felt like everything that they have, all the work that they've been doing, really came to a head in that moment when they did their stomping tantrum and when they did their magical leaf. Like it really came ahead into that moment. And although Roy won, they both felt satisfied. Roy felt satisfied that he was like, yes, Crocolore, we did it. And with her, you had, we had the Sprigatito, we had Florigato. Like my mind just went. We had the Florigato in that moment, just kind of like give Liko a fist pump of like, we still did it. It was just such a cool moment, in that moment. And it just really showed like what investment we've been giving to these characters. Their battle was really good. It was really back and forth. And I don't know. I think they just captured the emotions of that. And then the emotional afterwards of them just, shaking hands. And then later on we see Dot. And Dot had really grown as she won her battle. And all the gym trainers. It just felt like, I probably have 600 hours between Scarlet and Violet, maybe a little bit more at this point. And I remember, playing Scarlet because I had gotten the game early for the review on our gaming channel, and I was playing Scarlet, and I was like, oh my god, this game's so good. I loved it. I was writing my review, and it's a masterpiece game, I think. I don't care what anybody says. And just a lot of emotions with that. And I love that those emotions can tie directly into the anime. And I just think it was just such a good episode. And I can't wait to see what comes next. Now that we're going on to the, we have next episode, which kind of like, it's the official end of this core. And then we're going to go on to the next core, which brings us to the next adventure for Rayquaza. Next episode, we got a preview of, looks like Lapras and Arboliva and them are coming back out finally, which is really, really cool. But the next adventure starts, and we're going to be here for the next 25 episodes or whatever the core is going to end up being. But yeah, I love Pokemon Horizons. I think it's such a good anime. I think Liko is such a good main character. And I just love the Pokemon franchise. And I just think that Pokemon Horizons has just been doing it such justice that it's just operating at a really high level. And this episode got me emotional. I was like, that's just how good Pokemon Horizons is as like a product. Is, it's able to still instill big emotions in me as a viewer and as somebody's, in the lifestyle. And that may not be the case for everybody, especially if they're not in the Pokemon bubble, but if you are, I just think that we're just really eating good. So yeah, I'm sorry I didn't talk too much about specifically all the little things that happened in this episode, like the sandwich onigiri moment at the end and stuff like that. Or Liko's friend. I didn't talk about specific moments, but I just kind of want to talk about this episode and then kind of like what it means as like a whole. And I hope that there's value in that. So leave me a like, leave me a comment, leave me your thoughts on this episode. And yeah, trainers, I'll see you guys next week I think next week is the final episode before we go on like a 2-week hiatus. And it might be, because I think the show's supposed to return October 12th or 11th or something like that. So I know we're going to go on like either a 1-week hiatus or a 2-week hiatus. and then the show will start over again. So regardless, Pokemon trainers, I'll see you guys next week. Can't wait to see you guys for when the new games come out. And yeah, hope you guys are having an amazing day, weekend, night, morning, evening, whenever you're watching this. One love. See you guys later.